Elder abuse can take many forms, and they may not all be immediately obvious.
So how is Ohio taking steps to keep vulnerable seniors safe? We take a look in our big story today.
So we get a lot wiser as we get older, but we also aren't as strong or as quick. So as we get older, there's a greater propensity for people to try to take advantage of us.
Those are the words from Attorney General Dave Yost earlier this week. The National Council on Aging says up to 5 million Americans are above the age of 60, and they are abused every year.
So what do family members and caregivers need to know in this? Elder abuse is any knowing, intentional, or negligent act by a caregiver or another person that causes harm or serious risk of harm to a vulnerable adult. Now that can include neglect and isolation, as well as physical abuse, but it can also include emotional or psychological abuse, like insults, maybe threats, even intimidation in some cases. Financial exploitation is also a form of this abuse.
Earlier this week in Columbus, Ohio's Elder Abuse Commission held its annual conference. It brings together advocates and professionals to talk about effective ways to deal with elder abuse. This year's focus was on the role that trauma plays when it comes to older adults and ways to use a trauma-informed approach when helping victims of elder abuse. Attorney General Dave Yost spoke at that conference. He says it is a great opportunity for caregivers and advocates to come together to help prevent and protect those they care for.
It's an opportunity for the people that practice in this area to become better at what they do. They're already good. They're getting the newest tools, the best knowledge. But it's also important because we can raise awareness out there in the public. This is a crime that frequently happens in the shadows. People don't want to talk about it. They're afraid that if they report that they've been taken advantage of, that people are going to take them to court. That's not what happens.
Ohio's Attorney General also said more research is needed into the effects of trauma experienced by older adults.
So we discussed the different types of elder abuse, but how can you tell if someone you know or love is being abused? Action News reporter Ethan Watts spoke to a local expert about things to look out for. Ethan?
Yeah, Claire, I spoke to Maureen Veit from the Adult Protection Service Unit in Wood County. Now, we did mention forms of abuse that are noticeable just by seeing that person, like physical abuse, but it can be a lot harder to realize if someone is being mentally, emotionally, or even financially abused. Now, in her 20-plus years of experience in this field, Veit says that things that are a lot harder to see, like neglect and financial exploitation, are a lot more common than physical abuse when it comes to elders. She says things to look out for when it comes to these type of abuse are more in line with personality changes. Things like the person starting to change their routine, keeping isolated, and keeping more information from you than they usually do. A lot of the time, the abuser is a close friend or a family member of the victim, and they may try to keep the abuse a secret. Veit says the best way to notice these signs and help that person is to build a relationship and truly get to know them.
When we go out to talk with an older person, we like to know as much as possible about them if we can, because if you have somewhat of a rapport with your neighbor, you have one step in the door already. So you're more likely to elicit some information from them.
Now, she also tells me that an important step in helping your loved ones is to have these hard conversations early. Really check in on them, build that trust with them, and make it okay to discuss the different types of abuse that happen.
All right, so Ethan, like you said, it can be hard to have this conversation with someone. It can be a little awkward, especially if the person you think is being abused is not actually a relative. Did you get to speak to Maureen at all about the process of helping the person to sit them down if they think abuse is happening?
Yeah, Claire, Maureen tells me a good way to help is contacting local authorities. You know, you're not really getting too involved, but you're trying to help. They do wellness checks, and depending on the area you're in, contact an agency like the Adult Protective Service Unit. They actually send out staff and investigators to help people who are being harmed. She says the bottom line is if you suspect something is going on, it's better to be safe than sorry, and you should contact help for that person.
All right, good to know. Thanks so much, Ethan.
There are laws here in Ohio that aim to help families prevent and detect elder abuse, and one of them was signed last year. It's called Esther's Law. And it's after an Ohio woman who was abused and neglected in an Ohio nursing home. Esther's Law allows nursing home residents or their representatives to put electronic monitoring devices in residents' rooms in order to monitor the quality of care that they're receiving. It also places requirements on the facility to make reasonable accommodations and prohibits them from retaliating against residents who want those cameras installed.
Now, the man behind Esther's Law is pushing to take things to the federal level. We have Steve Piskor with us today. Now, we know that Esther's Law is here in Ohio. So how many other states are adopting similar laws that allow cameras in nursing homes?
Right now, there's 16 states that have the law. The last state that got it was Nevada, and I helped in Nevada get the law passed.
How important is it to you to see these other state lawmakers hear about Esther's Law and then say we should put something on the books like this?
Yeah, it's something. I get so many calls from people all over the United States, and they're all trying to do the same thing, and they ask for help. And basically, that's what I've been doing is kind of guiding everybody to do it, on how to get the law, and what the law is more important because they don't actually know what the law is.
So you have some state lawmakers supporting this idea. What's next as we think bigger picture?
So I already had a meeting with a senator regarding cameras. Right now, they are doing exploratory on it, which is common for them to do. And he told me it might take a month, it might take 2 months. He said he doesn't know, but he says they are seriously considering the law, introducing a federal law. I said I've been trying to go state by state, but when you look at state by state, if you average out 100 legislatures in each state, you've got 5,000 legislatures compared to 535 in federal. So, which way is going to be easier? Whichever way we do it first, that's what we'll take.
Sure. So why do you think having these laws in place is important?
I say it's important to the families. And that's the major concern that people call me with. They're saying that, we can't get attorneys. The attorneys won't take the case. The legislatures won't do anything about it, and the Department of Health won't do anything about it. So the camera is the only way I caught my mother's abuse. So the cameras will definitely help. And it's not for catching abuse, it's actually for stopping the abuse.
Now, since Esther's Law has been officially in place here in Ohio, what's your opinion? Do you think it's working?
Yeah, I get calls all the time of people telling me that, thanking me for getting the law passed. One woman told me, she said she actually sees an improvement in her mother's care. And of course, it works the other way too, where somebody saw something happen and they had to report it. And one person saw their mother get up out of bed and fall, and they were actually able to call the nursing home up and tell them she's on the floor to go help her. And they watched as they came in and picked her up. So I mean, it's helping in a lot of different ways that a lot of people don't realize how it could actually help.
Well, Steve, thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, Tina. Lots of info in here today. You can watch this full big story on our 13 ABC News app. It's available as a free download in your app store.